Hi everybody, welcome to Stumpy Grump's Scale Speed Shop. Today's update on the AMT 2021 Dodge Charger RT will cover the engine and the engine compartment and the chassis and the front and rear suspension and exhaust. Now, everything went together really easy. A little spoiler alert, like you didn't need it. This is a superb kit. That being said, there are a couple of little things that maybe you should know ahead of time that might help you a little bit. Not really problems, but just something that might make an easy build even easier. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get things turned around and get started. So starting with the engine, I've got it mostly completed here. The first thing I did, though, after the first update here, as I told you, I needed to tape off the engine block and spray the transmission. It would have helped if I'd have done that when I was spraying this color to begin with, the Vallejo Metal Color Chrome. But, you know, it just wouldn't be right if I remembered to do everything that I was supposed to do. So, get out the old airbrush and spray this again. The assembly so far is just pretty much spot on. What I will say is when putting on the heads and the exhaust manifolds here, what it calls for, I'll show you in the directions here, is to put the manifold on to the head. You know, there's a hole in a little tab right here, and then there's a pin underneath the head there that goes into, and I didn't read that ahead of time, so I put the head on first and then I put the exhaust manifolds on afterwards. So what I had to do is I just had to cut a little piece of the tab off right there, and I just slid it up in there once I did that, because the head was already glued on. Actually, to me, it seemed like it was easier to do than doing it on there. It sits on perfectly straight, snugs right in there. I didn't even glue that. I didn't even glue these in. They just stuck right in on both sides. So that might actually be a better way to do it. I don't know. It depends on how you feel about it. But yeah, I just shoved them in there and, you know, didn't even use glue on it. Everything else fits like it should. Really nice, but I just wanted to show you that real quick. All right, the rest of the engine went together perfectly, just as it should. I've got it mounted in the chassis right now because it's a really tight fit, and when I test fit it, I didn't want to pull it back out and re-glue it, so I just reached a little glue into the glue point there. Right there to glue it, and then right there. No problem. It drops down enough to do that. Yeah, just follow the directions, the instructions on it, and it'll go together perfectly. You see I did the detailing. I put in some masking tape and cut around those to paint them black. My fluid reservoir, air duct. I got to put my air filter on yet. This box with the filter or filler reservoir, the filler tank there. The radiator goes together perfectly and sits in perfectly, and the heater hose fits on without an issue whatsoever. Probably the nicest fitting, not heater hose, but radiator hose I've ever put on. I would make the suggestion, though, it shows to put in the firewall on step, what are we at here? Let me go back and find it. Step 17, it shows to put the firewall in here before most of the stuff goes in. Then in 18, you put all these engine compartment details in, and then you put the engine in and the radiator. What I would do is I would wait to put the firewall in. Because it's such a tight fit, this might give you a little better clearance without this in here. I'm not going to try to pull mine out. But I would wait and put the firewall in until after you get the engine in. That's just me. If I were to do it again, that's how I do it. I would wait on that. Wait a couple steps. Not do it on 17, but do it 19 or 20 here after you put the engine in. That's just me. It'd be a little bit of an easier deal, you know, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I go. Okay, everything else fits wonderfully. All these pieces just fit right into the pre-drilled holes that they have for you. Once again, enlarge them just a little bit with a drill bit, just a little bit bigger than what they are. Not a lot, just a little bit. Onto the chassis. So far, everything is fitting really good on the chassis too. What I will say is when you put these parts on, these holes here, you might want to take a drill bit, not one that's super wide. You don't want to, you know, really over widen it, but that's just take a bit that's just a little bit wider than these holes, and you're going to want to drill into those and make them just a hair wider so that the parts fit in there, those pins fit in there, because you're gonna have paint on them. You can scrape the paint off and do all that, but I'm just pre-drilling these holes just a little bit bigger so everything just sits right in there real nice. You know, you're not trying to shove these in there. You know, it's like putting a round peg in a square hole or something like that. You know, it fits really good. Now on the suspension part, I'll show you in the directions. Skips around a little bit and goes up here. But the very like second or third step on here, you have your wheel hub here that your wheel goes onto. This piece here, it kept falling off. I didn't glue it on because I didn't know how it was going to go, because this sway bar here goes in there, tie rod, whatever you want to call it, goes onto and goes into those holes once you get to that point. I just left these things, they just kept falling off, and before I end up losing one, these can be put on last at this step. I just wait until this step to try to put those things on. You know, they go right in there. And once again, the holes here in the strut that's got that tab and a hole in it, enlarge those holes just a little bit so that this goes in without much of an issue. Then at the end, you just glue it in. Pretty simple. And if I come across anything else, I'll let you know. But so far, everything fits really, really good, chassis and suspension wise. Now that the engine is in, I've got the rear end piece right here glued in, the drive shaft going up into the transmission here, kind of at an angle, but that's how it works. Some of these other pieces are in, and I am ready to finish the chassis. I'll do this other suspension piece here back here, and then I'll do the exhaust and some of the other plates in heat shields, and I'll show you everything when it's done. Move on to the exhaust part of things. Okay, first thing you do is you put this piece in right here. Another heat plate there. Then this rear suspension piece fits right in perfectly, right on for your wheels to go on, your wheel hubs. And what I did with the exhaust, and once again, after you drill out some of these holes just a little bit wider for ease of fit here, I put these two pieces on this piece to make it one whole piece. Right there. I glued the mufflers onto that on each side first. Let that sit for a bit, because I use the Bob Smith Industries Instacure. It didn't take long. And then I glued the whole exhaust on as one whole piece. I started with the back here, put them in the holes. Then I matched up the hole in the crossover pipe here that where it connects together into there. There's a little pin right there, and there's a little hole right there. Once again, you drill it out. So I did that. And then you get to the front with the catalytic converters, and there's holes right there too. These just fit right on like all kits are meant to be. Just fit perfectly, like everything should. Really, really nice. So great fit. Once everything is painted, assembly goes quick because everything fits so great. The assembly just goes together so quick. So you get a lot accomplished in a little bit of time. You got a little bit of touch up to do here, but so I just got to put a few of the final plates on, and I'll be done, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. The rest of these pieces went on without a problem. Once again, everything fit perfectly. Not an issue whatsoever. Your front plate right here. These cross members. And everything else. So that finishes up the chassis. The wheels and tires are on the final step. They go on the final step. So I've got until then to finish detailing them, what I'm going to do to them. I'll include those with the body, possibly the interior. We'll see what I do that with. I'll probably do it with the interior real quick. There's not going to be much to the wheels, but your air filter piece fits perfectly, just like everything else. And that's the engine compartment. And the chassis. This is tight. I guess a good way to say it. It's tight. Everything fits perfectly where it's supposed to. There's no guessing. There's no, leeway on all this stuff. It goes where it's supposed to go, period. All these holes and all the pins that are on these parts that go into these holes are perfectly measured. Once again, I would use your little drill bits to widen the holes just a little bit for this, because of paint always adds a little bit more and it's hard to get in. This is practically, with these pins and holes, practically snap together-ish. I'm telling you, it's that easy to put together. It's practically snap together-ish. I wouldn't suggest doing it like a snap together, and I would not suggest having a young person do it, because there are some small pieces. There's a lot of pieces. Some of them are fragile and a little finicky in the front suspension, but it's this the assembly is that easy and that precise that it's practically, like I said, a snap together. I would definitely recommend gluing all these pieces in, but almost all of them you really don't have to. They just snap into the holes. I mean, not much easier than that. So that's the engine compartment, and the chassis and suspension. I'm going to finish this video here. Next up, I'm going to start the interior, and I'll probably show you the wheels and tires to go along with the interior. So I don't think the interior is going to take too much. It's probably going to be the same way. Yes, I do have some decals to put on as well yet to finish out the engine compartment, but I'm not going to do those right at this moment. I'll wait till I have a few more to do. Okay, stay tuned for the interior update. Until then, thanks for watching Stumpy Grump Scale Speed Shop. I'll see you later.